All right, everybody. Hold up your names.
Oh, I don't think I have mine.
Okay, and we're gonna start with the first slide, which is going to give a summary of the Starbucks case. So let's start.
So for the Starbucks case, some of the challenges that they're facing currently are primary challenges are maintaining the quality service and staff management. That's due to expansion and just trying to really maintain, what's going on with each individual location, and sometimes that can be difficult to do when you're expanding at the rate that they are. And revenue growth, that continues to be a challenge through the U.S. market, especially. They're, seeing a lot of, and that's also listed below as well, but that is a testament to workers staying at home and them favoring those products that are convenient for them to just either make at home or already are pre-made, and they can just bring them home and drink straight out of the can. Same store growth is a challenge as well, with some stores leveling off and not continuing to build revenue. And that a lot of that is just going to be coming, they're going to need to get more invested into the communities themselves and really try and think outside the box, because they've really maximized their potential and taken a lot of initiative strategically to gain some insights on their customers through technology, but also maximizing their experience. So they've really tried several routes to maximize growth. So it's going to be pretty difficult to top that, but they could always expand into the community a little bit more, giving back, things of that nature. Some of their competitive advantages come from the experience that they offer their customers, adapting to markets. When they went into China, they did a ton of market research and were ready to emerge into China, and were ready for the sensitivities that their culture was going to bring to adapt to going into a place that wasn't such a coffee pro place. So one of the things that they did there was offer a lot of education background for people there that weren't necessarily familiar with coffee. And so that was one avenue that they maximized on with their market research and how they adapted to the market. Operational excellence, you can see it through and through as a customer, and just not from the experience, but when you go there, you typically don't wait long in lines, and that's a testament to their process and their flows and how things are functioning really well. So that's definitely a competitive advantage as well. And how they earn their profits and do so over time. One of the things, especially that this takes for the doing so over time, is their long-term connect with customers. Their ability to do this is what helps them sustain business, because their customers, their ability to stay connected with them isn't just a profit today, it also allows for profit tomorrow. So that's something that is really, great feature an opportunity that they've capitalized on. Their product, they offer a premium priced product and they back it up, and people love their product, so they're willing to pay that high price, and the margins on that profit, I'm sure, are fantastic. So they're able to really capitalize a huge profit margin from such a little overhead and relatively inexpensive product, comparatively speaking. The experience is another thing that keeps them earning high profits. It's part of what allows them to set those prices to where they are in a way that other coffee companies necessarily may not be able to do, because they don't offer that cafe style experience that really draws and captivates people and gets them into that third place feeling. Their mobile app as well has helped with their high profits, because they're able to be really close with the customer and close in a way that many other organizations can't. And they also, their mobile app also incentivizes customers to keep coming back. So I actually have it I use it. I love it. I got hooked on it when I ran into a friend and they were saying how I was crazy not to have gone there so many times when I'm working on school and not have the app. And so I, of course, got the app because it's helping me save money. Every time I go, I get points. Those points can be used for free food or drinks. And so what it does is it's them exchanging that point value in that system, that incentive to get closer to me and get closer insight, which is a very great way to keep those profits high and continue to maximize on opportunities.
Hey, Amanda,
Yes.
the app, does it also make it easier, the whole process for you, or not?
Sometimes it's a little difficult because I'll go up to the register ready to give them my card and I'm like, wait. But outside of that, it has ran relatively smoothly. It's not the most user-friendly app to navigate, but it does pretty well overall. I'd give it about an 8.5 out of 10. So it definitely is worthwhile.
Does anyone else use the app?
I also use the app, and I agree with Amanda. When you're using your app but paying not through the app, it is a little bit of like a shuffle. But when you use the app and you pay through the app, you really just have to walk in and grab your coffee and you're off. That's super easy. But when you have to use both, it gets a little difficult.
Yeah, the team I was meeting with before you, they using the app, they said it encourages their addiction because it's so easy. They push a button and then pretty soon they walk in. They don't have to stand in line. They just grab and go.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely does that.
So right now the technology is that with GPS getting better, their plans, the corporate plans are so that when you order it, it'll watch where you are. It'll follow your GPS. And when you're the right distance away, it'll let everyone know to make it, and then they'll bring it out to you.
That's
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That is almost creepy.
That's
I don't use it enough.
There's nothing worse than a cold latte or a hot, frappuccino. You don't want it to be melted and you don't want it to be cold. So, it makes sense, but it's still a little creepy.
So I'm going to get out of your way. Hey, Kim, how's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty good.
Hey, I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to run out of here, answer your questions, and go. So what is it that if you were going to entertain a client, you would say, let's meet at Starbucks instead of McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts?
Classiness behind it.
Yeah, it's like the perception of the Starbucks name, and the location. It's just got this perception of being, business-like, professional.
More prestigious
High
than
quality.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Okay, and they pulled it off somehow.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Any questions for me before I go zip into another team?
No.
I do have a question, but it's not pertaining to this. It's actually for the Socratic Skill Builder.
Sure, go ahead, quick.
So I was a little confused on the difference, and I know you had mentioned it in the Skill Builder as well, but the difference with generic, the generic and the business strategy levels, and I was confused because I had both, but I was like, well, does this information go under the business strategy and this versus the generic? And so I kind of wasn't sure where to place the information that I have over both of them.
Yeah, I don't want to use up team time to answer that.
Okay, that's fair.
But the most important thing to understand, Amanda, is that the business strategy is like the Starbucks in general. It's like the company, what do they sell, what their product is, and then you have generic strategies. You got low cost and differentiation. But then there's like layers of an onion. You have an outer circle over that. That's the corporate strategy where Starbucks, the company that owns Starbucks or owns Burger King, might also own the Atlanta Braves. So it's two different businesses within the corporate structure. So you have to have a corporate strategy and then a business strategy. And then within the business, your marketing department has its own strategy. So the reason that's important is that you would hope all of those are similar.
Okay.
So you don't have one doing differentiation and one doing cost.
That would be the generic, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, and that's a big problem because it's confusing because people think, well, you don't, low cost is means low price. No, it's not low price. It's like we get up every morning and the only thing that matters to us is how to drive down cost. How can I pay people less? How can I pay less rent? How can I build products cheaper? How can I negotiate? That's all you're consumed with. Differentiators, all that's important to them, but all they really think about is how we can fool people into believing this Gucci bag, which is really the same as a Walmart bag, is somehow so much better.
Okay.
How do we differentiate? So it's just where your focus is. That's all. That's what those generic are.
Okay. Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you so much.
Okay. Great. I'll see everybody later.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay. And the last part of that is that Starbucks, what they do to drive down their costs, something that I had found it was kind of difficult for me to pick apart anything in the throughout the case that pertained to that specifically, but I did note that they didn't advertise and instead relied on that customer experience and also the presence of where they placed their stores to sell itself. So that's what I have for those two.
Alrighty.
And then this part is me. He asked whether we thought Starbucks would be a low-cost leader or a differentiator, and I think they are 100% a differentiator. So the key little aspects of differentiating companies are superior products, strong bonding, strong branding, strong advertising, outstanding distribution, and innovation capabilities. And since Amanda just talked about strong advertising, we're going to talk about it because when they first started out, they really didn't advertise, and they still don't advertise much. But because their logo and their branding is done so well, every girl with a Starbucks cup is an advertisement. Every, customization when they write their names on it and that gets posted on their Instagram story is a Starbucks ad. They're on social media. They're literally everywhere. Everywhere you turn, there's a Starbucks. So even though they're not advertising, they're not paying for advertising, they're still advertising and they're doing really well at it. And then another part of their branding or advertising is the fact that they've created this illusion of a superior product, which, okay, they do buy Arabica beans, which are technically superior, but they're not $7 superior. But that's what they've created, this belief in our heads that it's worth so much more. And then outstanding distribution, and they cut out middlemen and started buying directly from farmers. They ship they have stores all around the world and they ship to them. So I've never been to a Starbucks where they've been out of anything for more than a day or two. But recently, the whole Popeyes chicken sandwich, it sold out in a day, and then you couldn't get a Popeyes chicken sandwich for like a month and a half. And I don't think that would ever happen at Starbucks. So they do have outstanding distribution. And then innovation capabilities. We just talked about the app, and now apparently they're working on tracking you. So they're definitely innovating.
Big Brother is giving you coffee.
Big Brother. Yeah. And then Starbucks core competencies include outstanding customer service, a continuous focus on quality, operational excellence, and brand awareness. Some of those kind of go back to what we've already said, their operational excellence. I've never waited longer than, I don't even know. It seems so quick. It's one of those Chick-fil-A type experiences. You walk in and you have your latte in your hand, and that's exactly what you need. The customer service is always great. They're always focused on quality. And I'm sure they also focus a little on keeping costs down, but I think the quality matters more to them than driving down cost. And then brand awareness, like we said, they're everywhere. So, and they maintain their reputation to maintain that high, idea of their brand. So, yeah. And then I answer C and D on the next slide. So for the resource-based values, it looks at the resources of a company, both tangible and intangible, and assesses whether they are valuable, rare, inimitable, and non-substitutable. And Starbucks resources that are those aspects or those adjectives include their trademarks, their high reputation, customer loyalty or customer experience, brand loyalty, their use of technology, and then cup customization. Their trademarks, obviously, you can't imitate those legally. Their high reputation, I would consider that both valuable and rare. They've done a lot to be environmentally responsible and socially responsible to maintain that high reputation. And because consumers think of them as being morally or ethically responsible in those aspects, they're more likely to choose them than a company that wasn't considered to be or to have the best reputation. And then maintaining that positive customer experience, they're going to go back because they had a good experience. And then the use of technology, obviously through the mobile app, and then, names on cups. And then what are Starbucks' intellectual property, and is it a key performance factor? So Starbucks has trademarks, patents, and copyrights, which I was kind of surprised by the copyrights, but that's still really cool. So they have trademarks on the name Frappuccino and their logo and several others. There were so many. Patents on the insulated sleeve that you put around your cup to keep your hand from getting too hot. And then an hourglass shaped coffee brewer, which I thought existed before Starbucks, but I guess they got to the patent first, so good for them. And then copyrights on their website and their mobile app. So they definitely have tons of intellectual property that are protected by rights. And I don't know if I would call it a key performance factor, but they have definitely kind of gone to bat over their intellectual property. They've filed several lawsuits, won several, lost several, in the name of like protecting their intellectual property and furthering their business. So I don't know if I would say, I think their logo would probably be a key performance factor just because people are so aware of their brand. But like the hourglass shaped coffee brewer, I didn't realize that was accredited to Starbucks until this. So I'm not sure that would, but I think their trademarks are more notable than anything else. And then on the next slide, I think I have one more. Okay, so it also asked for a SWOT analysis of Starbucks, and their strengths include a diverse product mix, increasing operating income, and high reputation. Starbucks offers, not only coffees, but teas and drinks and apple juice and water and milk and whatever. And then they offer food and cups and coffee that you can take home and coffee that you can drink in the store that comes pre-bottled. So they've got a pretty wide range. Their operating income has been increasing year to year. Like I mentioned, the high reputation earlier. And then Starbucks weaknesses include in-store sales, expensive products, and self-cannibalism due to overcrowding. Same-store sales we've already kind of touched on, but expensive products, like we said, they buy whole Arabica beans directly from the farmers, and that's more expensive than either using a middleman or not paying fair wages or buying Robusta beans. So, they're buying an expensive product, but they're selling it at a high margin, so I guess they're okay. And then self-cannibalism due to overcrowding. I know on Airline Drive, there are 3 Starbucks alone, and that's one street in Bossier City. So, it would not be unthinkable to think that they're eating into each other's market share. So I think they kind of have to be aware of where they're placing their stores to maximize each individual store's market. But other than that, they've all been open for a while and they're still open. So I guess it's not hurting them too much. And then Starbucks opportunities include emerging markets and brand extension. We talked about emerging markets last week, how they want to start with typically non-coffee drinking companies and then move into currently coffee drinking companies, which I think is really smart. And then brand extension. They do already have a few cups, mugs, and tumblers and things, but I think they could venture into a lot more of like coffee brewers and espresso machines and all kinds of like the entire coffee supply chain, which that would kind of, I don't know, because it would be a good idea because people would buy it because it's the Starbucks brand, but then they would make their coffee at home. So I don't know, in the long run, it may not be the best. So anyway, but they could extend in other directions. And then threats to Starbucks include developed countries' economies. For example, I would consider Starbucks to be like a normal good. So when I have tons of money, I buy tons of Starbucks. When I don't have tons of money, I don't buy as much Starbucks because it is pretty expensive. So during the recession in America, I would imagine that Starbucks, their sales went down just a little bit. So that's something to be aware of. Market saturation. There's a lot of competition. I mean, Dunkin' Donuts, PJ's, mom and pop shops, they're everywhere, just like Starbucks. So they kind of have to be very aware of when competition is getting a little too much. And then changing tastes and preferences. People want different things quite a bit, so they have to stay kind of on top of that. And then, is there a good fit? And then, does SWAT make sense here? I think they are kind of in the middle of a good fit right now, but the SWAT model is not ideal here. I don't think it's ideal anywhere anymore. I mean, it was created in 1964, so it's kind of outdated. And by these and threats, the market or environment that you've identified as being a good fit is no longer what exists because our market is ever changing and it changes so fast. So I don't think it's still a proper model to be using, but I think Starbucks has found what works for them. And then I think the next slide is actually my last slide.
And Julia, we are running on 4 minutes for this this one. So after you, we can hop into the next link.
Okay, great. So this one is just talking about intellectual property rights. And I said that yes, intellectual property rights should be allowed. I think without intellectual property rights, people wouldn't have incentive to continue research and development, especially with new drugs, since that does take so many years and so much money. I think intellectual property rights incentivize people because it ensures them that they're going to benefit from their idea. And I think without intellectual property rights, we would lose that sense of innovation because they would know, like, the second they publish anything, it's going to get taken and recreated. And that would kind of force everyone into a low-cost leadership strategy. There would be no more differentiation. So everything would be based on, how much lower can we lower this cost and how much can we lower price? And I think it would ultimately kind of suffer. And then in the question, it mentions that discontinuing intellectual property rights could potentially lower healthcare. But the price of healthcare includes a lot more than just drugs. And I don't think it would lower the cost of the drugs, but I don't think it would lower healthcare at all. Because when you go to your doctor and you pay that $45 copay and they prescribe you something, you go to the pharmacy and then you pay for the prescription separately. So that $45 copay wouldn't decrease or go away. But the price that you pay at the pharmacy later for the actual prescription could. So I don't think it would lower the cost of healthcare. And then it asked about what specifically Starbucks has with intellectual property and if they have problems with it. And yes, they have several trademarks, patents, and copyrights, and they've all filed lawsuits about them. So I guess you could consider it a problem. But yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, guys, we're going to end this one. So I'm going to